Then out of nowhere, it pops against me, so I throw out a market order to kill the trade, but why the is my order just sitting there? It's not closing me out. Welcome to another week of live trading. This is for the week of July. I know I didn't get to put one out for June. I did record one, but just didn't get a chance to edit it. To be honest, you didn't miss much. It's been pretty slow. Not much has happened that week, but this week was a bit more interesting. Starting with Monday, this day may seem familiar. If you watched my last video, this was the week I was setting up the golf sim. I focused on the telecommunication stocks. They all had a big gap down on Friday and continued to stay weak today. So I went after the Nokia and the Ericsson since they both did well for me last week. I just scalped them both long and short. The Nokia seemed to move more than the Ericsson, so caught some of it on the short side after it popped into the 5-minute. As it retested the lows, which was my target, I was trailing to the offer and of course missed my exit, which at this point, every penny for me is almost an R. But luckily it didn't pop and the bid ended up breaking again and now was looking to add to it under the low of the day. But it got stuck at the base and stopped moving and ended up trailing out as the offer broke. Then in the afternoon, I went after the Lumen, which was breaking through prior lows on the daily, penny basing for lower on the intraday off the 15. It was hard to borrow on TOS, so I got what I could on E-Trade since it was on an uptick and had a nice breakdown. Then the last hour of the day, I tried the Ford, which gapped down on earnings and also had a breakdown on the 15-minute, got triggered in as it broke, only to bounce right back up. It was into a lot of support on the daily, and there wasn't much time left on the clock, so decided to trail bar by bar off the 5, which ended up trailing at break even-ish pretty much. And then Nokia was still basing this entire time and decided to get back in some as it broke here in the last 15-minute. Got like a penny out of it, and that was the day. Tuesday at the open, I watched the Nokia again for a quick scalp. Wasn't expecting much since it's an ADR and these don't get a lot of follow through for scalps unless they're really moving. Then I did the CCCS, which was one of my favorite gaps this morning, gapping down today, breaking through a lot of support and reversing the nice pop from yesterday. It set up a 1-2-3 on the 1-minute and I jumped in a little bit early thinking it was going to break just because I wanted to make sure I got filled at my entry price since it was a bit spready. And of course it didn't end up breaking and decides to go the other way, almost trailing me out, and I ended up killing it as it came back in for a small loss. Then I noticed the telecommunication stocks were getting bought, specifically the Verizon and the AT&T. So of course I went to go and check on my buddies Nokia and Ericsson, both breaking out as well, so decided to grab some shares for both. Should have not been greedy and just traded the Nokia because the Ericsson flipped on me and lost over an R on it. But Nokia, I was able to get a few cents out of it and it made me too. Then I couldn't get anything going until the telecommunication stocks was on the move again, this time to the downside, so just did the Nokia this time, no Ericsson, even though I would have loved to get revenge on it, but not letting them get me twice. Then the afternoon session have been dead lately, so really didn't do much for the rest of the day, finishing up just under 2 hours. Wednesday, first trade I went after was the Amren, recently transitioned out of the downtrend on the daily and had a nice rally only to gap right back down today into the prior lows. Wasn't clearing support, so that was a concern, but tried it under the 2-minute low high, barely got filled, so try to add to it on the way down. Should have been up an R on this nice drop, but really liked the gap, so decided to give it the room and lowered the stop to the 5-minute. And unfortunately ended up trailing out. Then later that morning, the Amren came back in off the pop and started basing into the 20 MA on the 5-minute. So I decided to reshort it, this time getting filled a bit more than I expected, but wasn't really moving and I dozed off a bit. Then out of nowhere, it pops against me, so I throw out a market order to kill the trade, but why the is my order just sitting there? It's not closing me out. That is so dumb. They definitely held my order because I saw plenty of shares on every offer, on every penny it was going against me, and it wasn't filling me a single share. So I finally decided to cancel the market order and break up the order and get out in smaller lots, which finally took me out. So after the dust settled, I lost about 5 Rs on it, I think. This actually has happened to me a few times in the past, but this one was just ridiculous. So I reached out to the live chat on the platform and explained what happened. They reviewed it and tell me it was because it was a large order, so it takes time to route it, which caused the delay, and there's not much they can do about it. I don't accept that, so I call in and speak with one of the managers who handles the trade department, and I tell him there's just no way an order should be taking that long to fill. So he reviews it and finds out that my order sat there for over 9 seconds. And says if I didn't cancel my order, then he could have adjusted it for me. But because I broke it into a bunch of smaller orders, it makes it harder now because it's scattered at different routes and prices, but says he'll see what he can do. calls me back about 10 minutes later with good news and tells me he was able to adjust it and should see it in my account later today, which is the right thing. But I was definitely surprised that they adjusted the whole order for me because I usually have zero luck with these things at TD Ameritrade. E-Trade, I have much better experience with them reimbursing if it's an issue on their end, but not TDA. So I was really glad they were able to make this right because that is just ridiculous. Now, they didn't adjust it to the price I wanted. I think it was a penny off. And it did pop against me a few cents before I was able to throw in the order. So I still lost a couple of R's on it, which I happily accept. And I asked him how I can avoid this kind of issue in the future. And he advises me to call in next time if I want to close out a large order. But that's obviously not the best solution for day traders like me, especially if I'm scalping and price is moving quick. So the other solution he gives me is exactly what I did, which is to break it down to smaller orders, which is a bit of a hassle. Even though this stock did over 30 millions of shares today, I feel it shouldn't be an issue. So if anyone out there trades on TOS, this is my heads up to you. Then the rest of the day went dead after that, so wasn't able to recover, ending the day in the red. Then the following day, the drought continued because either the gap trades didn't set up or was too spready for me. So I took it easy, dabbling in some scalps here and there to see if anything will go. I think the Lumen made a tiny bit, but other than that, a very, very quiet day for me. Friday was a bit better, just in terms of things to do. First trade was the FRTX, penny stock that gapped up, doing a lot of volume, but right into prior resistance. Was looking for a quick pop over the 1 minute as a scalp / potential play with an ad, but immediately failed and took a loss just under an R. Now, when I say there were more things to do, doesn't necessarily mean they also followed through, right? Then I scalped the Ericsson, which has been on the carryover list all week, for a quick short, and this one actually worked, but was way undersized. Moving on to the fun, this one was having a lot of fun, which is another penny stock gapping up today on tons of volume and just clearing some prior resistance. And I was looking for a quick pop into that declining 20 possibly. Intraday was breaking out already, so I missed the initial breakout, so I jumped in late as it was catching momentum. Was a bit spready, so didn't go big on the size, and not a lot of room, so trailed it as it popped into my target, that declining 20 on the daily, and got some slippage on the way out from the spread. But it actually held up and continued for another cent or two, but I was out. Then the IPG caught my attention, which was one of my top watchers for me this morning. Got bought to today's high, only to get rejected all the way back down to today's low and started to base there. Not the cleanest base off the 2 minute, but shorted it off the breakdown. It was also a 1, 2, 3 on the 15, so gave it a shot. And of course, only got partially filled. I was way undersized and I couldn't find a spot to add to it. It ended up getting to my target, which was prior support on the daily, and decided to take it over the 5 minute for a small win. This one actually hit 2 Rs at the bottom there, but I only got filled just under a third of my order, so this should have made some okay money for me. Then the afternoon went dead again, which unfortunately has been kind of the theme lately, and called it a week. So it's been pretty slow for me on the day trading side, especially in June, but it has picked up a bit now that we're in the heart of earnings season, so hopefully we can make some decent money in August. But that was another week of live trading in the books for 2023. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, I appreciate you for being here, and I hope to see you on the next one.